into the next budget. Absolutely.
Speaker.
And I do think that that is a significant accomplishment that I failed to mention earlier, but the fact that we were able to restructure the way we finance education in the state is hugely important. And I know that the Republicans have criticized the plan because it's not been funded, fully funded at this point. And I understand that criticism, but that does not take away from the fact that we have restructured, we've created a good, strong, constitutional funding system for the first time in years in Ohio. We have identified elements of a good quality education, and we are funding those as the money will be provided in the coming years. But the structure is a structure that makes sense. It is designed to provide a high-quality education for kids in Ohio. It is not the haphazard, who yells the loudest type funding program that has been built up over the years prior to this time.
You would agree that with the structure there, but without the funding, you really, I mean, that's not a constitutional system per se, is it?
I think that the structure is a critical first step. It's an all-important first step, but it's certainly not the last step.
Speaker, your colleague, Senator Sawyer, brought within the stack, like a 10-inch stack of education reform reports since 1989, and said basically none of them had accomplished their goal. These were various commissions, you know, probably many of them created by legislation. And he expressed some concern, if not skepticism, that the Advisory Funding Council would actually, you know, produce some real change. What would be your response to that?
I believe that I'm looking forward to the meetings of the Funding Advisory Council. I think that allows us to continue to shape the education funding system in a way that makes sense. It allows us to review what's been created. It allows us to adapt as we go forward, and the members, it's a broad membership of very qualified people appointed by Democrats and Republicans, and I believe that it's a very strong tool as part of the education funding changes that were made.
Speaker, can you give us some insight into what the game plan is going to be for this election cycle? The assumption being that this might be a tough year for incumbents. How do you maintain control of the House?
I believe that as we communicate what we as Democrats have been able to do, especially in terms of job creation, I believe that communication is the way that we maintain the House. As people understand what our priorities have been and will continue to be, and what we've been able to accomplish in a very tough economy, I think that by communicating that message, our incumbents will be able to remain in office, and we will be able to maintain our majority in the House.
Mr. Speaker, along that same line, with Republicans just a few seats and gunning for it, one of the things that keep hitting you and Democrats on is restructuring government. Why not hold hearings on those proposals and take the offense on that? Is there a danger in talking about restructuring government and consolidating state agencies?
The issue of consolidating state government is an issue that sounds good, and the fact is that, first of all, I would note that Republicans have controlled the House, the Senate, and the governor's office for years. And during those years, generally, the size of government expanded, not shrank. In fact, if you look at where the size of government went from the Reagan years forward, you will see that the size of government expanded under Republican control. It wasn't until Governor Strickland took over in 2007 that the size of government started shrinking. And we continued that in the House in 2009. And at this point, we have the smallest size government since the Reagan years. We have consolidated government. We have shrunk the size of government. We have done what Republicans are talking about doing, but haven't done themselves. We will continue to look at ways to consolidate government, and I would anticipate that the Budget Commission will be looking at that in 2010.
Speaker, on redistricting again, will the Democrats in the House offer their own resolution, and if so, when?
We're working on our own resolution, but I can't answer the rest of that because I don't know.
Speaker, Senate President has said that he'd like to see, as one of his priorities, the regulatory reform. Senate Bill 3 came over here. I believe you sent your own version back to them. Is there a middle ground that can be worked out on that issue?
Again, that's one of the bills that I hope that we will be able to reach a middle ground on. Our bill, I believe, is superior to the Senate bill. And it's not just my opinion, but our bill has the endorsements of most of the major business organizations in the state that are affected by regulatory reform. The fact is that we need to continue to look at ways to streamline regulations to make Ohio more business friendly so that businesses can flourish here in Ohio. I believe our bill does that to a greater extent than the Senate bill does. But again, having said that, we're looking for ways to pass regulatory reform, and we will be working with the Senate on that. And again, I'm cautiously optimistic we'll be able to come up with a resolution that is productive.
It's almost 10:30, so we probably have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Now, considering that there's been a bunch of federal money flowing into banks, is your bank credit initiative going to have punitive measures against banks that are withholding financial assistance to small businesses?
I don't believe that's part of it. I believe that what's being looked at would be ways to loosen credit, but not in a punitive way. And I don't know that we as a state would have the ability to be punitive against banks in that fashion.
Speaker, you indicated that you might have less stimulus money. Is that because of matches, or have you been told that there's less money coming in?
No, I have no knowledge that there'll be less stimulus money for the next budget cycle. But I think for prudent budgeting, we need to anticipate that there will be less. If we get the same or more, then we'll be in better shape. But
when do you hope to ramp up the third frontier money to a $200 million level? What would
that would, I believe, I believe that there are sufficient funds currently to maintain funding at current levels through 2011. So we'd be looking at 2012, and I believe that that's one area that we're dealing with the Republicans in the House on as well at this point.
How large of a capital budget do you think you'll be able to do, and how soon do you think you'll take that out?
That's a good question. I can't tell you at the moment the size. I would like to see that done sooner rather than later. Again, I believe that's a good way to stimulate job growth in Ohio. But that is an area that has not yet been agreed upon by the Senate and the House yet.
Is part of the concern here the debt cap? Are we getting pretty close to that?
It's certainly something that we have to look at, and that will certainly impact the size of the capital bill.
Speaker, the December revenues for income tax collections were off the mark, and made up for it a little bit with sales, but is that a concern that could turn into a trend?
Everything's a concern to me. I believe, based on what we've seen so far, that generally the budget projections are on or close to the mark, and I'm hoping that will continue.
All right, thanks, guys.